Welcome to Computer Works by Ray Hines. Hello, I am Papa Ray, and I wanted to share with you some information on sorting in Excel. Today we're going to sort by last name. And there can be problems with that, and you say, well, what is the difficulty? And I'm going to tell you it's not too much difficulty, but it depends on how your data comes out. Many worksheets have a full name column, maybe, like my name would be M. Ray Hines Jr. And that's a little difficult to sort because most names just end with the last name, like Jim W. Smith. But we have Jim Smith and Jim W. Smith and Mr. or Dr. Jim Smith, comma, Esquire, or Jim Smith, PhD, and all of the other types of suffixes that make it difficult. The ability to sort by last name depends on whether the data is consistent. Last name isn't always at the end of the data string, and so we've got to figure out how to get to the last name if we only have a column that says full name. We can't be assured that a junior or a fourth or other tags going to come after the last name. And in sorting, we're going to use two steps. First, we're going to isolate a column with the accurate data called last name, and then we're going to sort all our rows by that column, and that makes it fairly simple. So let's take a look today at 3 different sorting methods to accomplish our task. Sorting by last name. The first method is populate the last name column using find and replace, and then sort. Let's see what happens here. Let's take a look at our sample data. Go over to our spreadsheet, and I've built a spreadsheet here, and we've got method 1, 2, and 3, and the first method is find and replace. Well, that's really nice. Let's see. We've got the data that we don't want to damage, and so we're going to make a copy of it. Control C, and we're going to go to a column and copy it. But that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for the last name so we can sort all of this information. So the way to get the last name is find and replace. And you can find and replace by doing Control H, and it brings up a dialog box, find and replace. And I've already built it in, but I'm going to get rid of that and we'll do it again. The asterisk is a wildcard character, and it's pretty universal in computer science. The star or asterisk looks for everything that's in that field or in that area, in that location. And so we're going to add a space to it, and we're searching for everything plus the previous last space. And we're going to replace it with nothing. So we're going to get rid of it more or less and replace it with nothing. So let's try that. We're going to hit replace, and look at that, it worked pretty well. Hit it again, replace, and we could go all that way, but what if we have 200 or 500 or more? So I'm going to replace all, making sure that I've selected the area that I wanted to replace, and it says, okay, you've done it. We've made 9 replacements, and so that is really cool. So I'm going to close this, and I'm going to close that, but look what happened. So that's not going to work, is it? Because of the suffix. So let me do this again. I'm going to Control Z, which undoes what I just did, and before I do what I did, I have to modify the data, which is why I copied it in the first place, and modifying this data by taking the suffixes away. And now, if I select this and do a Control H, it still has the information, and it's going to replace it with nothing. Let's do find next, and then let's just say replace all. Oh, I found it, but I'm sorry, I didn't do that. Let's replace all, and it did it. 9 replacements. So I messed that up a little bit, but instead of replacing, I hit find, and that was not right. So replace all of that area that I've selected is what I asked it to do. It did what I wanted it to do 9 times. It could have been 900 times, but you know, I've damaged this data by putting it over here and taking away the suffix, and so that's a difficulty. But it's time for us to sort now. Step 2 of our sorting process is I'm going to select the column heading, and it'll be name and last name, and then I'll go to sort. Well, there's several. Let's go home, There's several ways to sort. It's built onto the home ribbon is an A to Z sort. So let's sort. No, we don't want to do A to Z or Z to A. We want to do a custom sort by a certain column called last name. And we hit OK, and it sorted everything. So we're cool. We have sorted all these names that started Elliot and all that into an alphabetic order, and we have maintained the suffix, but we destroyed the suffix over here. So this column is not very good, but that's the last name. We could put it back if it was necessary. It depends on your needs when you're sorting this, whether you want to inherit the suffixes or if it's all right for you to delete the suffix. All right, let's switch back over to our steps here and look at method 2. It's going to populate the last name column just exactly like we did before, except it's going to use flash fill. And flash fill is a rather new, well, since 2013, maybe that's 10 years, 11 years old, but it's going to do flash fill, and that will be a lot faster. So let's go back over to our data, and flash fill is the second method. So what you have to do with flash fill is make it comfortable in doing a fill by its surroundings. And so what I'm going to do here, once again, I have the destruction of this data that has to be done. So I need to take note of it and put it back if that's my desire. And if it's not my desire, I need to find another method. This method does have this one weak spot, but it's very powerful, especially if you have hundreds and hundreds of pieces of data. I'm going to come over here and type the first one, ELLIOTT. Now, based on that, I'm going to select, let me hit Control Enter, which keeps the cursor where it is, and I'm going to come down here and select that much and do flash fill. So I'm going to go to the data and come over here and find flash fill, which is there. Notice that it's not grayed out because I've selected an area. And so I'm getting ready to tell the computer to use your surroundings, and if this one has just the last name and you're selecting this, put just the last name here. So you can see why I couldn't use the junior and the third in here. So I'm going to do that, but rather than do that, let me hover over. It says flash fill can be done quicker with a shortcut called Control E. Now this is only for in this application, Excel. You can't just do Control E anytime and expect flash fill. Here we go, and I hit Control E and it did just that. It looked at its surroundings, found that what it needed was just the last name and filled that in. Very, very powerful, except I have lost the junior and the third. But we're not done yet. Like we did before, we select the column headers and the data, and we can hit sort, but if we sorted it would sort this way, and that's not going to work. And so we're going to hit sort up here. Data sort is another way to sort, and we're going to use the same technique. Last name, not by first name, but by last name, and sort. And now that we've got it all done, except we've lost the suffixes, we can use this data, having sorted it in alphabetical order by last name. Okay, let's go back and let's look at the third method. Third method is a great method. You just have to understand. Method 3 says generate the last name using a dynamic formula, and the formula will work for any future columns, future data that you put in there, and then you can sort. So this is the formula, but it's not going to be that hard. Let me shift back to the data one more time. Come over here. If I just could remember what formula that was, I'd be okay. Well, I cheated a little bit and put it down here so I don't have to remember either. I'm going to hit Control C to copy that formula and put it up here, and Control V, and there it is, except all formulas in Excel have to start with an equal sign. Well, if I had typed that in there, it would have jumbled. And so until you do that, until you build your spreadsheet, you need to not type that in. So I'm going to say equal the rightmost part of that cell for the length of that cell minus the length of that cell that has up to the first space. And so that's going to work here, except I still have a little worry there that it's not going to work here. Boy, wouldn't it be nice if that could work there. So I'm going to hit Control Enter, and sure enough, it did it. I'm going to do another one. I'm going to use the pull down and pull one more down. Oh wow, this is going so well. What if I go all the way, just go for broke and hit it? And it does it. This is my preferred formula because I didn't have to manipulate data, and I was able to take Thomas III and Hall Jr. in its entirety without having to mess with it or delete it or come over here like that one. I had to take it off. And this is deficient of the suffix now, but when I sort this, it will not be deficient. So let's go to the next part. Let's sort by coming down here. And very simply, we're going to do data, sort, but not A to Z. We're going to sort by a specific column, the last name column. And when I sort this column as well as this one, but this column has the full name and the last name as well. The full name is sorted. So I started with the data, and this was my data. And I ended up with this data the same way. And so I've accomplished exactly what I wanted to do. Well, I hope this helps, and I will put in the comments below the formula that you need here, and I would use that formula as often as possible, and it just goes right to the end and gets the last part. There's a whole lot that can be done with mid, right, and left when you're looking at strings of data. This is only touching the surface. The three methods are populate and do find and replace, populate and do flash fill, or generate a last name column and correctly pull off just the last name. Well, I appreciate it. Thanks for watching, and I'd like you to join my YouTube channel at Ray Hines. Come back, and we'll see you the next time.